Tonight, we're discussing Ranking of Kings. What the hell is this show and why is it so amazing? Bel-Air, the good, the bad, and the not so ugly. And finally, we'll be inviting a guest on to discuss BIPOC representation in video games, VTubing, and the modern media. This is Did Y'all See That? Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Did Y'all See That? I am your host, Ngozi Mai, the Jingu Vtuber. Thank you all for tuning in. And we're already here with the technical difficulties. Hilarious. Okay, anyway, back to that. Let's redo that. Welcome to Did Y'all See That? I am your host, Ngozi Mai, the Jingu Vtuber. And welcome, and thank you for tuning in. We've got a lot to get through tonight, but first, the rundown. Now, the show is split up into two one-hour segments. Pop Your Culture, where we'll discuss various pop culture from the last month, and Talk Gozy to Me, where we'll invite a special guest onto the show for an interview, as well as a hot button discussion topic. Now, feel free to comment away throughout the whole show. I just got to tell you, I can't promise I'm going to be reading chat too closely. I will try to glance over when I can, but I've got an actual set of content that I'm trying to get through tonight for you guys, so just bear with me. But yeah, there will be spoilers. There will be spoilers in this show during the Pop Your Culture segment, so if you see this come up, I am probably talking about something you could get spoiled on. So I recommend muting the muting the stream by default, and kind of probing the chat to see what we're talking about, and if it's something that you care about getting spoiled. If it's something that you don't care about getting spoiled, feel free to unmute. But just in case, just keep it on mute. When it goes away, boop, then you're safe. Then you can unmute the chat or unmute the stream. By the end of the show, we're going to go over some questions that you can all submit. So there is a command, Q&A, exclamation point Q&A, to get you the link. If you guys have questions that you want us to talk about at the end of the show, feel free to send them. That's already live. You can actually even start sending questions right now if you want. I will be vetting the questions, so no funny version of but yeah, with that all out of the way, let's get started with our first part of the show, Pop Your Culture. All you bubs pop your culture like this. Tell me about it, goes you work that shit. All you bubs pop your culture like this. Tell me about it, goes you work that shit. All right, this first part of the show is where we're just going to talk about pop culture. So the first segment we're going to go into is In Case You Missed It. So in this section, I will go over kind of a spark notes of the notable pop culture from the past month that I saw. Feel free to chat in the comment in the chat. Like I said, I will try to glance over there when I can, but it's honestly, I'm kind of just going through content here. So let's go ahead and get started. Starting with Love is Blind. Now, Love is Blind is a show, a dating reality show where people have to date each other without ever laying eyes on each other. And this is season 2. I saw season 1 of this and I really, really loved it. Season 2 ended, and here are the spark notes. Nick is like a total high school girl with all of his gossiping. He's like a total bitch. Danielle, serial gaslighter. Shake is just the fucking worst. Shane and Natalie, sad ending, but definitely for the best. Mal, on some fuck girl shit. Sal, adorable and must be protected at all costs. And Shane and his family gave me major MAGA vibes. I was very worried about Kyle the entire interaction they had. How I Met Your Father. Now, this is a solid contender for our Who Asked for this segment, but honestly, I'm not too mad at it. I think it's actually pretty funny and pretty charming. I think the dialogue is a little bit cringy because they're trying to be very 2022 with it. But it's got like really good nostalgic fallbacks. If you like the original How I Met Your Mother, I think you'll actually really like this show. So I only caveat really is that all of the characters seem really charming and all, but I think they're too hot, if that makes sense. I feel like the original cast they're all attractive too, but I feel like they were all weirdos in their own respect, where I feel like all of these guys are too cool. But I mean, honestly, the nostalgia is there, and if you like the original series, you'll like this too. The Boys, diabolical, very violent, very ridiculous, and very on brand. If you guys have watched The Boys, the show, or even read the comic, you'll know how fucking weird, like, gory it is. It's like insane, like over the top kind of levels of gory. And this show is no different. This is an anthology series that is totally animated by different animators. Kind of think back to the Star Wars Visions that came out last year. It's kind of just like that, except it's The Boys themed. I only got through the first 2 episodes. I gotta pick this guy up again, but it was really good. The second episode is created by Justin Roiland, and if you're a fan of his work, like Rick and Morty, you will notice his stank on that episode pretty fucking quickly. So I think it's a jolly good time. Super bloody and gory as fuck, but still recommend it. Euphoria. The season 2 of Euphoria ended with multiple bangs. I'm sorry, I had to. Lexi's play had a weirdly Broadway level ass budget for some reason, and I don't know why she was so surprised that her friends and her sister were going to be pissed at her for making a play that was directly about their lives. I don't know. Honestly, the show is pretty good, but I mean, you know, you kind of had it coming, like Lexi. We all fell in love with Fexi, which is Fesco and Lexi, only to have our hearts immediately broken. He is almost certainly going to prison forever for murder. Rue hit rock ass bottom this season. Holy shit, that is the lowest we have seen her, and we've seen her pretty fucking low. But it seems like hopefully things are looking up for her. We shall see in season 3. And rip Ashtray. I said Ashtray. Rip Ashtray, the real ride or die. Human Resources is a spin-off of the show Big Mouth, and it is equally vulgar and equally gross, but somehow not as bad of viewing experiences. I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy Big Mouth's humor, but it makes me uncomfortable watching it because it's centered around children. They show like nudity and stuff of kids, and that really bothers me. But it's unfortunate because the whole premise of like showing like a raw, very explicit view of puberty, I actually really liked, because I'm like, you know what, we all went through that. So it's a shame that I can't connect with Big Mouth in that way. However, if you do like Big Mouth, they made a new spinoff named Human Resources that is following all of the creatures and monsters, like the Hormone Monsters and the Shame Wizard and the Love Bug, all of them. And it's pretty rad. It's got the same voice actors and even more characters. I only saw the first episode, but I'm kind of sold. This looks pretty good. So if you like Big Mouth, you'll probably like this. Is It Cake? A new Netflix show that is totally based around a meme. I shit you not. This is a meme spawned a whole ass show where it's a baking competition where all of the bakers are making cakes that look like shit that are not cakes. So most people, I don't know, a lot of people are really bothered by this, but I actually totally dig this. Like, if you guys took a look at my Instagram, my personal IRL Instagram, most of it is like non-food things that look like food, food things that look like non-food. So this shit is right up my alley. The sad part about it is that it's super fucking cringy. It is not a good show, and I'm really sad about that. The host is maximum cringe, and you know what? To the point, I was thinking that it was a writing thing, but like he's so fucking cringy that I'm pretty sure the writers pretty much just told him, "Hey, just be as cringy as you possibly can. We're not going to give you a script or anything. Just like fucking make people uncomfortable." I'm pretty sure that's what they fucking did. So I can't recommend watching the show because it's objectively terrible. But, you know, the bakers are really fucking talented. Like you say, Crow. They're very fucking talented. Reacher. Ooh, man, did this start off strong? And such a disappointing outcome from it. So Reacher is a total reboot from the film series, not even the film series, it's actually a book series that was created into a film starring Tom Cruise, which people hated, but I liked it personally. I thought the movies were great, but people mostly didn't like Tom Cruise because he's like a 5'4" short dude that's portraying a character that's supposed to be like 6'3" and like fucking yoked, and like I get it. I get why people didn't like him. So they rebooted it as an Amazon original, and he's basically a huge-ass dude that kicks ass and is super smart. And that's like his whole thing. And you know what? It was cool at first. Like it would show like really cool, like visceral fights at the beginning, and it kind of got old, and that really sucks. Pretty much it's these redneck people that are like disrespecting Reacher. He kicks their ass. Continue. And they did that over and over and over again to the point where it got extremely old. And eventually when the novelty wore off, you kind of realized how boring the plot was. And I got mostly through this season. I only didn't watch the last 2 episodes, and I just totally fell off because I'm just like, dude, they're just like recycling the same shit, and it wasn't even that good. So I can't recommend this show. I hope if they do a season 2, they maybe get a better fucking plot, because quite frankly, the novelty wore off pretty quickly. And that is the conclusion of In Case You Missed It. Now let's go ahead and move on to our second segment called Gozy Stands. Ta-da! In this segment, I will talk about something that I watched this month that I fucking loved. And this month, that is Ranking of Kings. Oh my fucking God, do I love this show. And I'm going to go ahead and throw on my spoiler alert. There's about to be some fucking spoilers. Now, what I'm about to spoil are the 2 main characters, I guess, overall stories, but I'm actually not even going to get into the plot of the show. So even if you've never seen the show, and if you listen to what I'm about to tell you, you could still watch the show and you'll fucking love it as much as I did. I'm going to tell you that now. So what the fuck is this show? What is this show? It is set in a fantasy world full of kingdoms, where every king has a rank, depending on how strong they are. We open on the kingdom of Bossy, whose king is a giant, and he's ranked 7th. I know, right? Like, isn't that crazy? Like, we open on, you would think that we would open on the number 1 king. We literally, like, don't see the number 1 king, like, most of the series. It's kind of insane. Anyway, his firstborn son and heir, his name is Boji. And Boji is deaf, and he cannot speak. And he's made fun of by the whole kingdom's subjects. Like, and honestly, even members of the court, like, they, like, talk about him behind his back, like, talking about, oh, man, it's a shame, man. He's, like, so weak, and he's deaf, and he can't talk and all that stuff. It's really fucked up. And even his half-brother seemingly kind of hates him because he's the heir and the half-brother isn't. Boji is completely selfless. He is a total empath. He will put himself before anyone. He only wants to make other people happy. He is the ultimate fucking cinnamon roll, guys. That's just the tip of it. One day, while playing, Boji came across a thief named Kage. Now, when I was rehearsing this, guys, I actually started crying while talking about this. So let's see if this happens again. God damn it. Kage is the most there's a lot of tragic characters in this show, but Kage's story is so unbearably fucking sad. And I think it hit me the most because it was in the 2nd episode that we learned about his story. We learn about his entire backstory in the 2nd episode, and at that point I was fucking hooked on this show. So Kage is a member of what's called the Shadow Clan. They're they're still human, but they look like this. You see how he looks? He's like a blob of darkness. Basically, the Shadow Clan are all masters of stealth. They can maneuver in the shadows seamlessly, which is why they're mostly hired on as spies and assassins. And as a result, they have a really bad stigma against them. Like, people will see a Shadow Clan person, even if they're just minding their own goddamn business, they'll just see a Shadow Clan person and they'll be like, oh no, that fucking person, oh, they're untrustworthy. Which I suppose that is the show's take on discrimination, which is interesting. I didn't really lean into that too much, but basically that's kind of the premise of the Shadow Clan. We close in on Kage and his mother. Kage at this point in the story is like a child, and I'm talking a young child, like 4 or 5 years old. He and his mother are running for their lives because some kingdom decided that the Shadow Clan doesn't deserve to exist anymore. So they went and exterminated every single person that is a Shadow Clan member. So at this point, their whole clan has been murdered. They've all been genocided, and Kage and his mother are running for their lives. They're from these soldiers. The first heartbreaking part of it is that Kage's mother knows that they're not going to get away. So she tells Kage, you need to keep running. You need to run as long as you can and as far as you can. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to fight them off. And she stays back. And it was like a really heartfelt exchange with Kage having to leave his mom. And he had his little stuffed animal with him because he's a fucking kid. And his mom fought her ass off. She took some of them nights out with her. She was one hell of a skilled fighter. But she was eventually killed, and Kage watched his mother get cut down. And the only reason why Kage survived is because he came across a passing caravan of a different king and the king's granddaughter, and the granddaughter took Kage and hit him. That's the only reason why he survived. After that moment, Kage is like a 5-year-old alone in the world, scared, and doesn't know where to go. So he's wandering and starving and just trying to find just shelter and somewhere to live. He comes across a town, And in that town, because of the stigma, like I told you, there's like a stigma against the Shadow Clan members. Everybody treats him like fucking shit. Even though he's a kid, he's a child that has a little stuffed animal with him. And he's like trying to like go beg for food and stuff and beg for shelter, and no one will give him anything. Eventually, he realizes he needs money to survive. So he sells his stuffed animal for some money so that he can buy some food. And somebody robs him. Somebody robbed him and took the money, you know? So he's sitting here on the street. He's sitting here on the street, a 5-year-old, just begging for scraps. And one day, a asshole thief man comes across him and realizes he's a member of the Shadow Clan, so he's probably really good at stealing things. I could use that. So he takes him in. He takes Kage in and is not nice to Kage. He's treating Kage as a fucking slave, making Kage do all the work, do all the chores, making Kage steal for him and getting rich off of it. And here's the thing, Kage can only see this person with gratitude because this person is the only one out of all of this time he spent by himself. This guy is the only person to give him shelter and food, even though it's not good food, it's scraps too, but he gave him shelter and food. So Kage starts to like kind of see this man as like a father figure, which is really fucked up. And there's a really heartwarming heartbreaking scene where the guy is sleeping in a bed and he makes Kage sleep on the floor. And Kage goes up to the guy. His hand is hanging off the bed, and Kage holds his hand and falls asleep holding his hand. And oh my God, okay, don't cry, Gozi. Oh my God, it's just so fucking heartbreaking. So after a long time, it seems like a lot of time has passed, like maybe like 2 or 3 years, because Kage is like becoming a little bit more grown here. And the guy sells Kage out. The guy reports to the kingdom that, hey, I have a Shadow Clan member, and the kingdom comes to try to kill Kage. Kage gets away, but he's heartbroken to see that the man like has like a bag of money because he sold him out. Sometime later, Kage is he's on the street again. He's begging, but he's got a little bit more skills now. Since that guy kind of taught him how to steal, Kage can actually like kind of survive on his own by stealing money and stealing valuables to get food. So one day, Kage comes across like a commotion. This is all in one episode, by the way. This is all in one fucking episode. It's the second episode. It's crazy. All this shit happens. Kage comes across a bar. There's a commotion in a bar. He goes inside. For some reason, he went inside. I think he looked in the window and saw that the guy was there. He's like, oh my God, he's there. I need to go talk to him. He goes inside and he sees that the guy's fighting someone, and the guy gets stabbed, and it's a mortal wound. He falls to the floor. Kage's hiding in the shadows as he falls to the floor. And when he realizes that guy that is about to die, Kage runs out of the shadows. Even though Kage is running for his life here. He's fucking, like, people are trying to kill him, but he sees the guy. He runs out and he's trying to like he's trying to hold on to the guy like, no. The guy is in his last moments of life here, and he sees Kage. And then this is the first part of the show where you realize the kind of storytelling that they do here. The kind of storytelling that they do in the show is that they kind of present just about every single character that's not Boji or Kage as a villain until they don't. Because every single character in the show has a moment where you see their humanity, and this is that guy's. You see a flashback for this guy where he is, like cleaning with Kage and cooking Kage dinner and like kind of like being a dad to him. And then when we go back to that scene where that guy is asleep on the bed and Kage is holding his hand, that guy woke up and saw Kage holding his hand, and he held his hand back. And it reveals that guy actually, even though he treated Kage like shit, he actually loved Kage. And it's so fucking tragic. And then that guy dies with Kage right there holding on to him. It was so fucking tragic. Fast forward some more time, Kage is going to the Kingdom of Basi to try to swindle Boji. He realizes Boji's like kind of a chump, I guess, in his mind, because he says, Boji, give me all of your clothes. And Boji gives him all of his clothes. But not because Boji's afraid of him, but because Boji thought that he wanted clothes, and Boji's just a selfless person, and he gave him those clothes. And after a few days of doing this, Kage started to feel bad. He started to realize Boji's a good person. Because think about it, Kage has not had a lot of kindness in his life. The last kind person that he ever really had in his life was his mom. And I guess and the closest thing to that, I guess, is that guy that sold him out. So like when he realizes that Boji is like a genuinely good person, he kind of renounces his ways of being a thief and becomes Boji's best friend. And that's all in the second episode. That's one fucking episode. Let's talk about Boji. Now, I said a little bit about Boji already. He's deaf and he's mute. And he's extremely selfless. He literally does not have a selfish motive. He literally could not physically be selfish if he tried. The reason why Boji is so small and his dad and his mom were giants comes from Bossy, his father. Bossy had one ambition in life, and that was to become the strongest in the land. And at one point he felt like he was, and he kept trying to find more and more challenges to beat. He came across a god that was stronger than him and beat the shit out of him. So he was like, so after that, he made a deal with a demon to make him the strongest person in the land. The price for that deal was to steal the strength that his firstborn son would have. So long before even meeting his wife and having Boji, he signed his son's strength away. And as a result, when Boji was born, he's tiny, he can't grow, and he has zero strength. And it's a curse on him that is impossible to lift. He literally cannot, it doesn't matter how much he works out, how much he tries to train, he literally cannot amass any strength, and that is his curse. However, Boji finds, where he lacks in physical strength, he has in empathy, and he's actually a master movement. He has mastered speed. He's extremely fast. He can dodge any attack. It doesn't matter how big or beefy the person is. This is something like he is born with, that he can dodge any attack. He's extremely agile. And eventually he gains other abilities to compensate for his lack of strength, and it kind of makes him into the most powerful person in the land. So that's all I want to say about Boji, because if you haven't seen the show, that's all I want to say about Boji. That did not really spoil very much, I gotta tell you. Like, if you watch the show, if anything, this should just convince you to fucking watch the show. Now, why is this show so good? I touched on it already a little bit. The method by which they tell the story is presenting every single character, and honestly, they even presented Kage like this at first too, until you saw the second episode, that every character that is not Boji, they present them as a villain the first time they enter the story. And it's such a bold move doing that, because like it makes you immediately, and I'm talking like a real villain, you hate pretty much any new character that gets fucking introduced in the show. You hate them. And it becomes that much more of a gut punch when you realize every single character in the show has a redeeming quality. Every single character. So there are characters in the show that do. I just told you about Bossy. I just told you about King Bossy that fucking sold his son's strength to become the strongest person in the land. He did that selfish thing, and he actually did another arguably more fucked up thing later to his other son. And even he has a fucking redeeming quality. I'm not going to even tell you what it is. But I mean, the idea is that literally, like, it will break your heart. It will break your heart just how much every single character is human. When it's every single time they reveal the humanity in a new character, it just is kind of incredible. And it's such an interesting way to tell a story. I've never actually seen this before, and I think that's what drew me in so much. Like, because I just wanted to get every time they would introduce a new character, I would just want to like be invested and be like, how the fuck are they going to redeem this person? I swear, you guys are going to watch the show and you're going to be like, Gozy, you lying bitch. That character sucks. That is the worst character. There's nothing they could do to be redeemed. I shit you not. You're going to fucking eat your words. You're going to eat them shits. I swear. And the final reason that I think this show is really good is the animation style. As you can see, it comes off pretty childish. Every character has extremely exaggerated features, and it looks like a Cartoon Network cartoon, honestly. But it's actually a very deliberate choice, because when you see the combat sequences, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty certain that they are using a technique where a live action person, like an actual human, is doing the action and they're drawing on top of the action. And it's just the way that how smooth these actions are. It really looks like it's a real person that's doing it. And this is a technique that Disney actually did a lot back in the early Disney days, with like Snow White and Robin Hood and Cinderella. Like pretty much anytime you would see complex movement like dancing or running in those shows or in those movies back in the day, it's because they actually had an actual person do that action, film it, and then the animators actually drew pictures frame by frame on top of that image. And that's the reason why it looks so smooth. So that is, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing here. I'm pretty sure that's the technique that they're using here. Rotoscoping, yep, exactly. Rotoscoping, that's the term. Thank you, B. Now, verdict, this show fucking rocks. This show fucking rocks. I said a lot, spoiler-wise, but I really didn't say anything because I didn't really tell you anything about the plot. I just told you about two characters, and those are the two main characters, and everything I told you, you're going to find out in the first two episodes. So if you haven't seen this show, fucking go watch it. It's so fucking good. I just watched the finale like a few hours ago, and I fucking cried. So it's so fucking good. All right, spoiler off briefly. Next, so that's Gozy Stands. The next segment that we will cover is Who Asked for This? In this segment, we will go over a show or movie that reboots or remakes an old work, for better or for worse. And I'll tell you what I think about it at the end. This month's Who Asked for This is, let me do a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, by the way, we are going to be spoiling the fuck out of this. Honestly, and same thing. It's really, when I say spoiler alert, I really don't go into the plot too much. I'm really just talking about the characters. So take that for what you will. This month's show is Bel-Air. And this is a reboot of the beloved sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that ran through the early and mid 90s. Let's talk about the original for a bit before we get into the new one. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is a sitcom, kind of the first, I kind of like to think of it as the first real black sitcom that really embraced the personality of someone that's from an urban area, a black person that's from an urban area. I feel like prior to this, whenever black people were portrayed in sitcoms, they were portrayed as like very proper, which don't get me wrong, like I feel like I'm pretty proper, like that is definitely how black people are, but I feel like they weren't doing that in earnest. They were not doing that to really portray the black experience. I think they were doing that to placate white people. I feel like back in the day, if they would have showed any other type of black person, the white people would like riot. At least this is what they thought. They thought that the white people would riot and the show would get canceled. And this is kind of the first one that kind of embraced that as a main character. Generally in those shows like Family Matters, like Cosby Show, generally in those shows you had characters like this, but they were never the main character. They were never the main character. And this kind of changed that. So the premise is that there's a young kid that's played by Will Smith, that's named Will Smith. Will Smith plays Will Smith. And he is a teenager that lives in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia. And one day he's actually very smart. He's very, he's I guess what you would think as like a hood dude. But he's like extremely smart and extremely talented. He's very gifted at playing piano. He's a straight A student. He's a very gifted basketball player. He's getting scouted for scholarships for college. But one day he got into kind of a bad altercation with a kind of not good person. They didn't really go into detail in the original show about that person, but it was enough to scare his mom into wanting to send him away to live with her wealthy sister and her husband in LA, in the neighborhood of Bel-Air. So she sends Will out there, and when he shows up, he kind of doesn't jive with them. You know, they're a wealthier family living in a very white dominated neighborhood, and this family that lives there, they kind of know how to act around white folks, you know, because like we can't really be ourselves. For those that aren't familiar with the term, it's called code switching, and when you're around that a lot, that code switching kind of becomes your identity. And I think that's what kind of happened to the family here. It's not a bad thing. It just happens. But because of that, when Will comes in, some members of the family kind of feel like that threatens their way of life a little bit. Like they don't want to be seen as, you know, ghetto or something. And they feel this sentiment changes. Don't get me wrong, the sentiment does try and change, but this is how kind of it is at first. So let's talk about the characters. So here is the Banks family plus Will and Jeffrey. The patriarch is Philip Banks, who's a lawyer at the start of the show. He actually ends up as a judge later on in the show. So, and his wife is Vivian Banks. This is the newer casting of Vivian. We'll get into that a little bit later. Whoa, hello. And she is a professor, I think, at UCLA, an art history professor. The children, I'll start with the oldest, Hillary. Hillary is very beautiful and kind of stupid. We'll get into that a little later, too. Like, they really kind of laid in on Hillary's character being a beautiful idiot, which I'll talk about my opinion on that later. Who still lives with she was in college, but she dropped out of college and doesn't really want to know what she wants to do with her life. That does also progress in the series. The next oldest child is Carlton. Carlton is around Will's age, and he's very, you know, handsome and smart and plays sports. He's popular in school because he really worked for it. And it became there is a rift between Will and Carlton because Carlton feels like he earned his place in Bel-Air in the school, whereas he feels like Will kind of gets popular kind of quickly, right? Because he's like cool, he's fucking cool, right? And Carlton kind of hates that because he feels like, well, I fucking worked hard to get to where I am, so why the fuck does he get to be popular, you know? So that's kind of where a lot of their friction comes from. But the difference in the new series, we'll get to it, the difference being Will and Carlton actually become quite close quite quickly in the original series, whereas I feel like that rift is a lot more exaggerated in the new series. And then finally, the youngest is Ashley. I think Ashley is a really interesting character, and I'm really curious where they're gonna take her character in the new show, because she really hasn't had a chance to shine yet. But Ashley is interesting because in the show, in the original series, she was like, I think 12 or 13, the actress, when the show started. And she actually grew up with the show. She ended the show as a young woman, like around 18 or 19 years old. And you see it with her character, because her character is also growing up in the show. So I think her character was quite dynamic, growing from the young girl, the young little kid, pretty much the Tootie of the show, into her own, you know, grown woman character, her own identity, her own wants and needs, and her own ambitions. Like, it's really, really interesting where Ashley's character went in the original series, and I'm really curious what they're gonna do in the new series. Absolutely, yep. Ashley. Oh, that's true. And Ashley is super impressionable. She takes to Will pretty quickly, and it's really interesting because in the new show, I haven't actually seen Ashley and Will really interact much. Whereas in the original series, Ashley loved Will. Like, Will being so cool, she wanted to be just like him. Like, she really latched onto Will early on in the series, and that's actually a really notable difference that I'm actually not seeing in the new reboot. And I'm curious to see where that goes. Let's talk about the cultural impact. This show was pretty fucking, I think, revolutionary when it comes to Black sitcoms. You know, it entered the 90s with such, don't get me wrong, we've had all Black casts in sitcoms prior to that, but it kind of just changed the tone. You know, like making all different Black experiences like shine on the screen, I think really paved the way for different other newer shows. Like the Wayans brothers came out later in the 90s, you know. What's it called? Martin came out, the Jamie Foxx show, going into the 2000s. You got One-on-One, you got Girlfriends, you got Half and Half. Like, it really, I think, paved the way for different Black personalities, celebrating different Black personalities on TV, and it show, you know what, more than anything, because like I mentioned before, I feel like the older Black sitcoms, like in the late 80s and even the early 80s, and even in the fucking 70s, they were very much geared to placate's the wrong word. They were targeted to white people. I feel like Black people, we weren't targeted. We were not the target audience back then. And I feel like this show kind of made clear to showrunners that Black folks can be fucking profitable. We can make money. Black TV shows can make fucking money, and I think that's what this showed. And then it blew up after that. We have all kinds of Black shows now. So shoot, Like, Insecure would never have happened. I feel like Insecure would have never happened if this didn't happen, you know? So, hell yes. Hello, hello, hello. I see some action in the chat. Hello, hello. Cool. So let's move on to the new series, Bel-Air. Now, the biggest change. Let's talk about the changes here. The premise. The premise is different. The premise has changed. Basically, it's more, the biggest difference between the old show and the new show is that the new show is a drama. It's dramatic. It still has funny moments. I think it's actually quite funny sometimes, but it's extremely dramatic compared to the old show. Starting with the premise. So same sort of thing. Will gets in trouble and has to get sent to Bel-Air. Whereas in the old series, the reason for him getting sent there felt more like to give him a better life, to get him, better opportunities. Whereas in the new show, he is with a friend and he goes to go challenge some guy to basketball, but they're like bad guys. They're like gang members, and his friend brought a gun. His friend is getting the shit. Basically, something happens, and his friend starts getting the shit kicked out of him. Will grabs the gun and shoots it in the air. This is all in the first episode. And in fact, it's like the first 20 minutes of the first episode. He shoots the gun in the air. The cops come, arrest Will, and put a gun charge on him, which threatens to ruin his life. Like I mentioned, he has all of these opportunities. He's smart. He has all these scholarships coming his way, and this will fuck that up. This will fuck it up. So another layer that's new is that he's facing some really serious charges. His uncle Phil, who is a lawyer, puts in a good word and actually kind of breaks the law a little bit to get his record clean, which is interesting because that actually comes up later in the show. So he has the reason why he has to get sent to Bel-Air this time is because that gang member is trying to kill him. It's literally to save his. It's like I told you, it's more dramatic. It's way more dramatic. Like, it's not just to give him better life. It's straight up, he's gonna fucking die. He's gonna get shot if he stays in Philly. So that's the reason why they sent him. And honestly, I think that was like a stronger reason. Like, while it makes sense to me that like you would send someone with like wealthier relatives to give him a better life, that actually happened to me. Like when I was younger, my cousin came to live with me and my mom and my dad. To give him a better life because he's from a bad area. So I buy that, but this just feels more, it hits home more. I think it was a more effective telling of the story. But that's pretty much that's it on how the premise changed. It's just more dramatic. And I think it works. It's really weird. I think it works. Going to an Eagles game. Oh, no comment. Now, the change in characters. Let's talk about how the characters have changed. And they have all changed. I think maybe the only character in here that hasn't really changed much is Will. I think his portrayal of the character itself has not changed much from the original. However, something that I fucking love is that the showrunners are focusing more on Will's serious side. I feel like the original show did that, but for the most part, Will was just a clown because he's funny. Will Smith is funny, so they would just give him a bunch of jokes. Whereas in this show, he's still funny and cool and charming, and everybody likes him. But the show really focuses on how he feels. How does he feel? What's going through his mind with all this shit happened to him? Like, how does he feel about leaving all his friends? I feel like the original series really did not touch on like how Will felt about abandoning his life in Philly to come out here. The new show really did a good job of like showing him struggle with it. Like, he even tries to run away. Like, the second day, he was just like, fuck this. And he fucking pays Jazz. It was actually kind of nice how he met Jazz, too. He pays Jazz to take him to the airport, but he couldn't even get out the damn gate because Jeffrey fucking came in. Jeffrey's like a fucking spy in this, by the way. Jeffrey is like, he's like just a butler in the original series. He's like a straight up like fucking Idris Elba spy in this. Like, he is so mysterious. I'm not even gonna talk about Jeffrey because I don't even know what the fuck is up. I don't know what the hell is going on with Jeffrey. But I do know he's fine though. But no, yeah, Will, and honestly, Jabari Banks' acting is really great too. We'll get into the acting a little bit later. Let's move on to Aunt Viv. So they changed Aunt Viv's character quite a bit, but also not really though. Like, he's Alfred Pennyworth. Oh yeah, kind of. Yeah, Alfred Pennyworth. Yeah, shit. Because you got Alfred Pennyworth being like doing like cameras doing like fucking computers and shit. Like, he's yeah, Jeffrey, yeah. But that also implies that Phil is Batman, which he's not. But no, anyway, back to Aunt Viv. So Aunt Viv is still kind of the same premise in that she is a professor she's an art history professor at some college. I'm pretty sure it's UCLA. But what they did to her character is that they made it so her backstory is actually in being an artist. I don't actually remember if the original Aunt Viv was an artist, but this Aunt Viv is, and she actually had a whole career as an artist. Like, she's incredibly talented. All of her art really centers around portraying blackness, the beauty in blackness, you know, and it's kind of, I really like her art. Actually, there's even like homages to the original series in her art, which I didn't even realize until recently. But it's really cool. It's really but here's the thing, when Uncle Phil, I guess, got out of law school and started like kind of really gaining traction in his law career, and they started their family, she felt overwhelmed by it and she quit. She decided to not be an artist anymore and to just, you know, look after her family. And a part of her has been like missing all that time. Like, she feels she's happy. This woman loves her family, y'all. She loves her fucking family. But I mean, a part of her is also thinking like, when's it gonna be my turn? When do I get to shine? You know? So Aunt Viv's character, and she loves her. I love Aunt Viv is probably my favorite character in the show, guys. Like, she's, oh God. Woo. Yep. Oh, I'm so curious to talk about. Okay, we're gonna talk about Aunt Viv, Kane, because we got some stuff to say. Because I'm actually curious about your perspective on it, because I didn't really love the second Aunt Viv, the light skinned Aunt Viv, and as a result, I didn't really like follow her very much. But we'll talk about Aunt Viv in a few minutes. Uncle Phil. His character, we're going to talk about a little more about him as well. He's a lawyer, and in the show, when the show started, he's running for district attorney, which is interesting. It's an interesting, not departure from the original show, because I'm pretty sure that James Avery's Uncle Phil also ran for some sort of office at some point in the show. But it was interesting to open on the family when he's in the middle of this, because it's kind of portraying him as the type of person to put his ambitions, ahead of his family. He's not doing this on purpose. But he's just like letting his ambitions cloud his judgment a little bit. Like, there's an interaction with his son later. Carlton has like a substance abuse problem, and it's a little bit obvious, at least from the audience perspective, but Uncle Phil is just so distracted and not really paying attention that he, like, I don't know. I don't know if the subtext of the scene was to show that Uncle Phil kind of knew about it, but was like actively like denying it, so that he could focus on but I don't know, it just kind of seemed like he was either ignorant as fuck about his son's life, or he was straight up purposefully ignoring the fact that his son is like a clear drug abuser. And I don't know. But yeah. So that's a good segue into Carlton. Carlton in the new show, is kind of a dick. I don't know, man. I really don't like how they've portrayed Carlton. He's kind of a little bitch. I feel like the original Carlton was also kind of a little bitch, but it was funny. Like, it was played for laughs. Whereas in this one, it's like he's like, I hate him. You hate him. Like, oh my God, he's just being a dick to Will for no reason either. Like, ignoring the fact that Will has been struggling and is trying to adapt. Carlton is just actively making it worse for him, and it's just like amazing. He's in the show. He's since let up on that, but they really came in hard with it, and I was like, okay, dude, Carlton sucks. Moving on to Hillary. Okay, Hillary's difference, how they changed Hillary, is, I think, my favorite change of any character they changed. Because as y'all remember, she was the Valley Girl airhead in the original series. That she is not. That she is not in the new series. And I fucking love that they did that. They made her smart. They made her talented. They made her driven. Like, she basically has the same premise in that she went to college and she realized she didn't want to do this. You know, she didn't really know what she wanted to do, but she knew she didn't want to do this. So she dropped out of school. But the difference with this Hillary versus the last Hillary, this Hillary decided to try something. You know, the last Hillary was just literally like spending up her parents' money and not doing shit, where this Hillary was like trying to become an influencer on social media. And you know what? I'm sure some people will probably try to say, oh, that's not a real job. Yeah, the fuck it is. That's like saying streaming ain't a real job. This is a lot of fucking work, like, just like that. So I have so much fucking respect for her. She got into an ultimatum with her mom because her mom didn't see it as real work, but she did, and she actually like was like getting like a following too. She had something like 30,000 followers on Instagram or something. Like she was really, not to mention they made her a talented cook. She's a cook. She can cook delicious food. The original Hillary couldn't even pick up the damn spatula. Like I swear to God, like what they did with Hillary is just incredible. I love how they changed her character. Moving on to Ashley. Okay, so in the new show, she has not really been featured very much, but a very notable change that they made with Ashley is that they made her queer. She's gay. She likes girls, and the most that's not even the notable thing about her, right? That what I love about what they did with Ashley's character, and it's something you do not normally see with characters, LGBTQ plus characters that are presented in media, how they're portrayed. Usually when you see LGBTQ plus characters portrayed in media, they're usually at the beginning of their journey. They're usually when they're first like coping, or not coping, coping's the wrong word, when they're first trying to accept and love themselves as who they are. Whereas where they put Ashley knows who she is. She's like, I like girls. She's not ashamed of it. She's not that that's a bad thing, but I mean, they're centering on her character at a point in her journey that you do not normally see with LGBTQ plus characters. She's not at a point in the show where she's not at a point in her life where she's ready to talk to her parents about it. But she's secure in herself. She doesn't feel. She knows who she is, and she's like, I am who I am. And I thought that was really fucking cool, because you really don't see LGBTQ plus characters portrayed that way these days. And I really thought that was really an interesting choice. And like I said, we ain't gonna talk about Jeffrey, because I don't know what the fuck's going on with his character. The modern cultural impact. So a lot of it's much the same, I think. At this point in time, many shows, many black shows have come and gone, are ongoing, have paved the way for a show like this. So it really does not have the same impact that I think the original Fresh Prince had, but I think it does still have an impact, right? It's showing black wealth in a way that is, I don't know, classy is not the right word. I love how they portray black wealth and sophistication. You know, they're showing a country that has a lot. There are a lot of people in this country that for some reason still believe black people cannot be wealthy. Black people cannot be sophisticated. Black people cannot be successful. There are a lot of people in this country that feel that way, and it's fucked up. And this show unapologetically shows why that's bullshit. Like the way that every character in the show carries themselves with gravitas and class, it's kind of incredible to me to see. I really, really, really love to see that. So, and a lot of black people, you barely see white people in this show. Like, not even just the Banks family. They got a lot of black characters in the show that are also equally wealthy, all interacting with each other, all proud of their wealth, proud of where they came from, proud of their success, and just being successful black excellence. Like, it's just really fucking cool to see. Why is this show so great? The acting is so well done. It's so funny because most of the characters or most of the actors in the show are kind of nobodies. Like, I think the actor that plays Aunt Viv is maybe like the most, like, I've seen her in another thing, but every other person in the show, I've like never seen them in anything. And they're so fucking talented. They really could have sold out and got a whole bunch of like big name actors, but they really fucking took the risk, and it paid off because the acting is really fucking well done in this show, especially Jabari Banks, who plays Will. Like, I swear to God, like this guy must have like watched the original series 3 times end to end. Because the way that he portrays Will Smith, he's like a little Will Smith. There were times in the show where if I closed my eyes and heard him talk, I would think that's Will Smith. I was convinced at one point that there were times where the actual Will Smith was just dubbing some lines for him. Because I swear this dude, his voice sounds just like him sometimes. I am so shocked. It really does. I'm so fucking shocked. Like, he has done such a good job. It's a heavy burden to carry a show, to be the center of the show. And he fucking does it. He wears the crown. He wears the crown. The soundtrack is so good. It's so good, guys. If there's nothing else you take away from this show tonight, Go get on Spotify and look up the soundtrack to Bel-Air. That soundtrack is so good, and it's like so notably good. The last show that I can think of that I watched where the soundtrack was so because normally when you're hearing like a song play in a transition or something, you don't really think too much of it. You're like, oh yeah, it's a good song. This one, multiple times in a single episode, I would just like hear a song and I'm like, oh, to the stank face, oh, okay, that's good. Like, I swear to God, the soundtrack is so good. Go look up that soundtrack. Holy shit. Aunt Viv, we went into this a little bit. I really love what they did with Aunt Viv. You know, they really changed her and made her like a more three-dimensional character. And I think she's more akin to the dark-skinned Aunt Viv. Like I said, Kane, I don't really remember a lot about light-skinned Aunt Viv because I just know I love dark-skinned Aunt Viv, right? And I feel like this Aunt Viv really channels her more. I feel like, and you know what? Here's the thing. It's actually a systematic thing that happened on the show. It's kind of fucked up. This came out last year when they did the reunion special. The dark-skinned Aunt Viv, the actor that played her, was ousted from the show because she clashed with Will Smith, with the actor Will Smith. And they ousted her from the show and kind of branded her as difficult to work with, which happens a lot. That's going to come up later in the show, y'all. Stay tuned for the second part of the show. That happens a lot in Hollywood. And as a result, her career kind of stagnated after that, you know? And they brought in the new actress to play Aunt Viv, and they kind of really severely diminished her role, I think. I think the original Aunt Viv, the dark-skinned Aunt Viv, the original actor that played her, the writers really focused on making her very three-dimensional, giving her desires and wants and needs and ambitions and a voice, whereas the new Aunt Viv, they kind of like put her in the background a little bit. I feel like they really just diminished her. So I'm really glad the new Aunt Viv, they really are channeling the old Aunt Viv, because they're making her kind of like honestly, I think she's more of a main character than Uncle Phil is at this point. I think she's more of a main character than Uncle Phil is at this point. It's kind of crazy. Like, she really is outshining that guy. But yeah, Aunt Viv, she's amazing. Hillary, I already kind of went into this already. She, you know, this has to be the biggest improvement on the show. Actually making Hillary a fucking real character instead of a fucking punchline. Like, I swear, this has to be the best. Like, she's, I respect her. I respect Hillary. You know, she has good advice. She cares about her siblings. She's the first one that Ashley opens up to about her queerness, you know? And she gave her good advice, and she supported her. Like, she said, you know, Ashley, do you want to tell anybody else about this? No? Okay, then I'm here for you. Tell me what you need from me. Like, she was a supportive sister. When Will tells her about Carlton's substance abuse problem, she's supportive. She says, okay, Will, I think you have to step up here, because if it comes from me, he's not going to listen to me. He opened up to you about it. Like, she's smart. She's smart. She has street smarts. Like, she's a really good character, bro. Hell yes. Yes, check this show out, y'all. This is a good show. Oh, it so should. Now, what's not so great about the show? Carlton in the original series was actually likable. Even from day one, like, he had like eye roll moments where you're just like, okay, shut the fuck up, Carlton. But like, they made him like kind of silly and slapsticky, so it kind of gave him a little bit more charm. Whereas in this one, Carlton is like actively a dick. He's actively a fucking dick. Like, there was a point in the show where at first, when Will first joined the academy where they go to school, which, funny enough, this academy is not an all boys. Like, in the original series it was all boys. This one's co-ed, so that was an interesting departure too. Will was kind of an outcast at first, you know. Yeah, affluent. There we go, affluent. Like, he's like he felt like Carlton felt like he was better than Will. He felt like he was fundamentally better than Will. He would like make jabs at Will for not being rich, like for where Will came from. And I feel like Carlton in the original series didn't do it that quite on the nose like that. He would like suggest like, oh, you're not used to this. Oh, whereas this one's just like, I don't even want to quote him. He's just, oh my God, such a fucking dick. There was a point in the new show where so one of Carlton's classmates does something to Will to try to get him expelled. I'm not going to say what it is because it's really shocking, and I want you guys to watch the show. Carlton doesn't do anything about it. He knows who did it. He knows what they did and who did it, and he stays quiet. And he was about to be okay. He was about to just like let Will get expelled for something he didn't do. The old Carlton wouldn't have done that. And I'm not even going to knock him on his substance abuse problems, because I think that's actually one of the better parts of his character, like showing how when you're in an affluent family and your parents are very successful, like when your parent, like who out there in the audience has like, anybody knows that somebody that has parents that are like super high achievers, parents that are surgeons, brain surgeons, parents that are lawyers, parents that are like super wealthy, and they grew up wealthy, but they feel like they have to achieve high too. You know, they feel like a lot of pressure to also do that. And some parents are good about it. Some parents tell them like, oh, it's okay. You don't need to take the path I took. You can do whatever path you want. Like they give them that reassurance. But I feel like a lot of kids, they sit here, their parents don't do a good enough job of doing that. And as a result, when they aren't a high achiever, when they feel like they're not living up to their parents, they, you know, have issues. And in Carlton's case, he feels extreme anxiety, panic attacks when he's not the best at something. And that's part of the reason why he, like, I think, clashed with Will so much, because when he sees all of this stuff that he worked so hard for and how Will's getting it so easily, he starts his anxiety starts acting up and he starts acting out. And that's what he does the drugs for, to cope with that, you know? Yep, exactly. Yep. It's crazy. It's crazy. So like in that stance, honestly, I kind of am convincing myself into liking him more just the more I talk about it. Because in that aspect of his character, I think they did a fantastic job. But I mean, he could have been less of a dick. Uncle Phil. Now, Uncle Phil is not objectively a bad character, but the way that they're portraying him in the show is unfortunate, because the original Uncle Phil they portrayed so well. James Avery, rest his soul, did an amazing job playing Uncle Phil, being a father to his kids and a father to Will. And this Uncle Phil is so wrapped up in this district attorney race, is that he's like kind of ignoring. He's this, and I think this is the reason why I like Aunt Viv so much, because now it's making the Aunt Viv character kind of step into that role, you know, and that's what's making us love her so much, because she's the one that's supporting the kids, and Uncle Phil kind of isn't. And the only time Uncle Phil steps into his family matters is when something they're doing is affecting his bid for district attorney. Something happened in the last episode. The new episode's coming out tomorrow. Something happened in the last episode that makes me feel like this will change. You know, that his character is taking a different direction. It hasn't happened yet. So my opinion for this Uncle Phil, he's just not doing the character of Uncle Phil a good service right now. I hope they change. I hope they change my mind. Next, forced racism. There's this character, this white guy you see here, his name is Connor, okay? He's like the only character in the show that really has been overtly racist. There's been other characters in the show that have done microaggressions, which is a little bit more accurate, I think. But he's so overtly racist that it's so forced, because I feel like there is not a white person in this country right now that lives somewhere like LA that's gonna act like this around. Like, how many black people are in this? Okay, this is a bad example, but there's a lot of black people that go to the school. They're not going to be over. Like, there was a moment in the show where they're all in the locker room. Will had just joined the basketball team at this point. They're all in the locker room, and they're singing a song that has the N-word in it. And Connor's over here. He's saying the N-word, and Carlton's like, just, yeah, go Connor. Carlton's kind of going a little Uncle Tom with it, letting him do it. Will comes in and says, yo, dude, what the fuck? You can't say that. And Connor and Carlton's sitting here like, oh, come on, Will, chill. This was kind of the first moment where I was like really not a fan of Carlton, by the way. Very, very much self-hate, not a fan of self-hate. But I mean, there's like recurring shit like this. Like, we find out the thing that happened to Will that almost got him expelled, this guy did. This guy fucking did it. And he's just so unapologetically racist, and it's very overt. I want to say his role in the show is about to be a little bit more diminished, because something happened recently that makes me feel that way. I hope so, because I think he's a weak part of the show. This is nitpicky. This is a very small part of the show. He's a very minor character. This is very nitpicky. So I won't lay into it this too much, but I do feel like his character specifically enforcing the racism aspect is just a little bit too exaggerated, and it's kind of distracting. But yeah. Verdict. We may not have asked for this remake, but holy shit, are we happy they gave it to us. It is so rare It is so rare when they remake a show or a movie and it ends up actually improving on the source material. And I think this is an example of it. Like there is not a lot that they've done with this show that detracts from the original. I think it's only going up. I'm so fucking excited to see what they do with it, and y'all should give it a watch if you haven't watched it yet. All right, spoiler alert over. Where is it? Boop. All right, and that was Who Asked for This. The last segment of the first part of the show is called Anticipation. That's a joke from Rocky Horror. This is a segment where I talk about what I'm most excited about for the next month. So, starting with Moon Knight. I'm so fucking stoked for this. I actually have not seen the episode. If you've seen the episode, chat, don't spoil it for me. I'm actually gonna watch it like right after we're done with this. But apparently it was fucking good, and I'm so excited to watch it. And it premiered today. It's gonna come out every Wednesday at midnight. And yeah, we may talk about it at the next Did Y'all See That? I kind of want to wait until the show's over before we talk about it. So we'll see what happens. Atlanta season 3 premiered last Thursday, and this was a long time coming. I think season 2 came out in like 2018 or something, so it's been like fucking 4 years since we had a fucking new season, so it's a huge fucking deal. The second episode was like kind of mid, I think, but the first episode was super fucking good. If you guys have ever seen any of Jordan Peele's movies, like Us or Get Out, or even he's got a new one coming out called Nope. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm so excited. He does like a very specific genre of horror. His style is very suspense oriented, where like different things happen and you're just sitting here like, what the fuck? And it's just tense. And I believe that the first episode of season 3 of Atlanta was an homage to that. Cause it feels very much like that. And it was really good. And it was really fucking funny. The humor was very on brand for Atlanta. And it was a really, really solid start to the season. Very excited for this show. Upload just came out this month. This was a surprise to me because I didn't even fucking know it came out until like I was in Vegas. I was like, oh my god, did you see the Upload? The premise of this show is that when you die, if you're rich when you die, there is a service you can do where they beam off your head with a laser, and then they upload your consciousness to a fake reality where it's kind of like heaven, like you can kind of have whatever you want there. And season 2 just started. I actually just saw the first few episodes. I almost binged this last night. It's so good. The show is so fucking good. I got 3 episodes in and I was like, bitch, go to sleep, you have a show tomorrow. But I'm really excited about this one. I really might actually just binge this week, like, and we might be talking about this one sooner rather than later. This is a good premise. This is a good one. Russian Doll. This was a surprise because the first season of Russian Doll felt final. Like it felt like a beginning, middle, and end of a story. And I really did not think they would actually have a season 2. I have no idea what to expect with this. The premise of this show is that it's a woman who I think got hit by a car, and she keeps reliving her birthday. She keeps reliving the day over and over again every time. And for some reason, she keeps dying. She meets another guy who's also having the same issue. The guy chose to take his own life, and he also is reliving the same day. And I want to say the reason why they're doing it is because I think they both died at the exact same moment, so that's why they're linked. And how they got out of that is they had to figure out how to save each other's life. So spoiler alert, I guess they did because there's a season 2. I don't know what to expect with season 2. It premieres on April 20th. I'm really excited about it. We'll see where it goes. And Outlander. So this is kind of not a new show. Season 6 just started premiering, but I'm behind. I'm actually all the way back in season 3. So personally, what I'm going to be doing over the next month is binging seasons 3 through 5 so that I can get started on season 6 because the show is so fucking good. Oh my God. Like for the ladies out there, usually it's a Showtime show, so there's sex scenes, but normally when you see sex scenes portrayed in TV shows and movies and stuff, they're usually catered toward men. That's why you always see titties. That's why you always see boobs, and it's never for a woman's benefit. This show, the sex scenes are for the woman's benefit. So if you're a lady and you like love stories and a little bit of sex, watch this show. It's really good. Content warning, there's a lot of rape in the show. I'm sorry. It's a Showtime show set in the fucking 1700s. But I roll my eyes every time it happens, but it doesn't happen that much. But it does fucking happen like every fucking season. So on to some movies. Speaking of Morbius, Kane, I am also excited to see Morbius. However, but The critics are panning the fuck out of this show. They are panning the shit out of the show, and I'm so fucking sad about it. This is set in. This is a Sony show. It's a Marvel show. Sorry, Marvel movie. But it's not MCU. It's Sony. It's in Spider-Man land. And they actually even said that the movie is set in one of the 3 Spider-Man's universes. They're being vague about it, but we all know it's Andrew Garfield's. It has to fucking be. This movie comes out on Friday. I'm gonna still watch it, but quite frankly, heads up, guys. They're basically saying, without spoiling anything, they're saying that the CGI is real bad. Which in this day and age, if you've got bad CGI, I think there's no excuse for that. Like, people can, like, if they get Blender or Cinema 4D, like, people can make really good CGI at home these days. So there's really no excuse to be having bad CGI in, like, multi-million-dollar movies. I don't think it was intentional. It sounds like it wasn't intentional. I think they just generally. So Gozi's going into her VFX nerd mode right now. Generally these days, if a movie has bad CGI, because movies have multi-million-dollar budgets, there's no excuse. Generally these days, if they have that, it's because they looped in the VFX companies late in the game, and the VFX companies did not have enough time to make it look good. When you see really good CGI, it's because the things that they're rendering, it takes like a long fucking time for the computers to render them, like weeks or months at a time. And if they're coming in and they tell the VFX company, okay, we need this movie done, we need you to be done with all of the VFX for the movie in 6 months, the CGI is going to look bad because it's scientifically, physically impossible for them to be able to produce something good even if they work day and night, the computer can only render so quickly. So that's usually the reason why it happened, and it ends up being a management issue. All right, VFX nerd off. But anyway, I'm still going to watch it. We'll see. Also, they said the post-credit scene, it doesn't make any fucking sense, and it'll straight up piss people off. I haven't seen it, but I was so curious. I read what the post-credit scene is. I don't know if I agree with it. We'll see. But I'm excited. It's on April 1st. It's on Friday. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This is a movie in which Nick Cage is playing a more exaggerated fictional version of Nick Cage. I shit you not. He's actually fucking doing that. I don't know a lot about this movie, but all I know is Nick Cage is the greatest actor of all time, and I love every movie he's in, and I know it's going to be fucking amazing. So it comes out on April 22nd. I'm watching it. It's happening. We might even do a watch party on this, guys, because it's going to be ridiculous. If you've seen any Nick Cage movie, especially his recent ones, you know it's going to be fucking crazy. The Starship Troopers Terran Command. This is a video game, and I just recently saw this last week. It's a Starship Troopers game, and it looks terrible, and I can't wait to stream it. Oh my fucking God. Starship Troopers, for those that don't know, is a movie that came out, I think, in 1997, and it is a 100% a military satire film. However, a lot of people didn't catch this, and they just look at it as like an action movie with crazy, where military people are fighting bugs, like giant bugs. But it's actually riddled with propaganda, military propaganda, and it's totally making fun of the obsession, the American obsession with the military. I think it's hilarious because my dad was in the Navy growing up, so when I watch the movie, I'm sitting here like, okay, that's fucking funny, because there's a lot of shit in the movie that like my dad would straight up unironically say and spout, and I'm like, okay, that's super fucking funny. So I'm excited as fuck for this game. I don't know how much of the game is going to lean into the satire or if it's just going to be like literally us fighting bugs. Who knows? All I know is it looks bad and I want to play it. But yeah. Oh, interesting. Oh, I did not know that the book wasn't a satire. That's really funny, actually. Oh man, damn, they made fun of that author. And then finally, Tokyo Revengers Volume 24. This actually came out back in early February, but I haven't read it yet, and I'm gonna fucking read it. The Volume 23 fucking ended on some crazy shit. So I am really excited to pick this up. As you can see, I'm not going to tell you who the main character is. I'm not going to tell you who this character is on the front page, because a lot of people have only ever seen the anime, and I'm not about to ruin this anime for you. I'm not about to fucking do it because it's so good. This is like single-handedly one of the best manga I've ever read. It's the best manga I've ever read. I will be damned before I fucking ruin this for somebody. Y'all either read it or wait till the anime come out, but I'm not gonna ruin it for you. All right. That concludes anticipation and also concludes part 1 of our show. We're going to take a 5-minute break, but when we come back, we're going to have a special guest. So sit tight, all. We are back, folks, with part 2 of our show. Talk cozy to me.
Talk cozy to me. Talk cozy to me. Talk cozy to me.
Okay, our guest tonight is a VTuber, variety streamer, and an artist, and a hobby musician. He likes to stream art, games, and whatever else he's in the mood in. Variety, y'all. He likes to mix up his streams with different types of bits of interactions as well. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Crowan Chroma, y'all.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Gozy. Very
Yes.
nice to meet you, Gozy's chat.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Thank you, thank you. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, about your brand and the kind of content you make.
Okay, my brand. Oh, this question, it made me think about that old Condex commercial. Do you guys remember my brand? The so my brand, I would say, I don't know, like I pretty much would describe my brand as a mix of coziness and unintentionally comedy as well. So, like, basically, what I like to do is I like to try new things for my own enjoyment, but I like to share that the way that I share those things with my audience usually doesn't change. So whether it be in a cozy manner or a like a more comfortable, relaxing kind of manner, or a or throw in some humor in there. I guess I'm a funny, relaxing guy. I don't know.
Very nice. Okay. So, what makes you so passionate about that type of content?
Mhm. So like I've always loved consuming different types of media, like music, stories, anime, games, videos from like different types of like content creators or streamers. And I've always felt a push to create too. So I'd say some huge driving forces for me to create the kind of content that I do would be the joy and like the good memories that I've had consuming like the type of content that I create, and also the just like I've always felt creative. Like I've always had a like an urge to create things.
Very nice. Very nice. I could definitely,
And
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. We did the Zoom thing.
No, you're good. Yeah, and like I just what pops into my mind is just like the joy and like the good memories like consuming the type of content that I like has brought me, and like the idea that I could like be the same thing for someone else, that my content can do the same.
Very nice. I like that. I could definitely relate to that. Okay.
Hmm.
What is the single coolest interaction that you've ever had in your content or your social media presence?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one because I've had so many cool interactions. um I mean, think one that stands out would be, I don't know, I would say like it was a recent stream where I was having a lot of trouble with technical difficulties. For some reason my internet was just like not cooperating.
Mm.
So like I was disconnecting for like 3 minutes at a time, and then like my stream had like a minute delay, and then just the people in my chat, they were very supportive. They were just like keeping up
Oh.
conversation, like treating it like a chat room. And then someone was like, one of my moderators, they were like, "Oh, like quick, say nice things about Crowan, but before he gets back." So I just felt so much support, and like the fact that they put up with like 6 minutes of technical difficulties, and then we jumped right back on. That was a really cool one.
That is so wholesome. Oh my gosh. Yes. So this is something I like to ask people. If you suddenly hit it big and just became like this huge streamer with like hundreds of thousands of followers and seemingly unlimited resources, you got money and you got time, how would that
Ooh.
change your brand?
Oh my gosh. Like that's a really tough one too. Like I don't think my brand would change very much. Like though I do think that like those resources, like the unlimited money, the seemingly unlimited money and time, I'd definitely be able to use that to increase the quality of my content by a whole lot. And with that time and like those resources as well, I'd love to be able to put on like large, like sort of large events where like they benefit like the VTuber community as well as maybe even some charity stuff too.
Oh yeah, very nice. I've always wanted to personally get into charity myself. Oh,
Hmm.
it's a doggy.
Oh, sorry, he does that.
Okay, so what's some advice that you could give another smaller content creators that are like just starting out, like maybe somebody that's just starting to get into streaming?
Let me think. Advice. I would say be yourself because a lot of the time, like even like in day to day life, like at work with certain friends, with family, like you interact with people different ways. Everyone has like different. I'm not gonna say different faces that they put on, but there's a different you for each situation. But above all else, like that's still you. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I would say don't trying to constantly keep up a persona for streaming. That sounds very stressful to me. That's something that I've never been interested in doing. So interact with your audience, interact with your content in a way where you can be yourself and be comfortable, where you don't have to strain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is if you're streaming, be a streamer, like be interactive. Make sure your audio settings are good so that your voice and not just your game audio are heard, or like
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're streaming. Because nobody wants to join a stream and not feel acknowledged or not be able to hear the person streaming because like otherwise they would just go watch a YouTube video. Like if
Mm-hmm.
whether it be giving general commentary that's about what you're streaming or thinking out loud, padding that space and just interacting, asking open-ended questions. I think that's just a good way to go about it to drive interaction. Be interactive.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, I know a lot of folks have trouble filling dead air, especially when they're not like streaming to anybody when they have like zero viewers. So I could definitely see that. Yeah. All right. Do you have any other any like upcoming projects that you want to like give shout outs to?
Um, Nothing in particular really. I'm always streaming and collabing randomly throughout the week. I'm always trying new things. So since there's usually not a like I've never in my life made a stream schedule. I've always been spur of the moment. But besides that, I'm working on the art and rigging for my own model to prepare for
Ooh.
my VTuber debut. So like please look forward to that. Like it's tough for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody's encouragement is always appreciated. So I would say that's the big thing coming up. Preparing for my debut.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Well, thank you so much, Crow. With that, let's go ahead and get on to our next segment on that real shit. Now, in this segment, we will talk about a topic. And tonight's topic is representation of BIPOC people in popular forms of media, like video games, Hollywood, and VTubing. So let's go ahead and start with video games. Let's go ahead and start and talk about the issues. Like for me, some of the issues that I've seen in video games are, customer or customization options for characters, like hair and skin colors, as
Hmm.
well as like video game protagonists. Like we see more black and brown people as video game protagonists these days, but I feel like even 10 years ago that was just like not a thing.
Oh
What are your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
All for sure. The one that stands out for me, like that you mentioned, like both of those stand out, but I would say the thing that is the most bothersome is the lack of character creation options because I would actually put those as both those issues as equally as annoying because games that don't have a character creation type thing and are putting you in the role of someone who just completely doesn't look like you,
Mm.
and then that compounds with like not being able to make someone that looks like me when I have the option presented to me. Like I sort of it sort of gets old. It sort of gets frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Definitely like go with the like so yeah, starting with the protagonist thing. Yeah, I feel like you're right with that. It seems like a lot of the times when I see people debate this topic on like representation of black folks in as protagonists, usually the loudest voices saying, "Oh, there's no problem," are, I hate to say it, folks, it's white dudes with brown hair, because that's what every fucking game protagonist is a white dude with brown hair. So of course they don't think it's a problem. So it's just
Uh-huh.
like it really comes down to like the solution for it seems to really, in my opinion, is to just have more black and brown folks involved in the video game creation process. Because the reason why they make them look like that is because they look like that. The folks that are making the game look like that, so that they're putting what they look like. So if you have more black and brown folks that are actually making the games, they'll probably look more like us. That's at least that's what I think. What do you think?
I'm inclined to agree because it's like I feel like the reason behind it is like partially also because of just the standards of beauty around
Mm,
the world. Because for example, like a lot of games that we consume, like JRPGs, MMOs, and everything, they're made in Asian countries, and
mm-hmm.
like for example, uh, a Japanese game, like someone might argue, like you said, someone who says like it's not a problem or something.
Mm-hmm.
The like you have a lot of main characters in like that in a Japanese created game, and the main character is Japanese, but usually their complexion is pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But even within Japan, right, there's varying skin tones of the people there.
Yep.
So like very rarely do you see, okay, I'm not gonna say very rarely, but less often do you see a darker Asian main character, whether it be in a game, whether it be in an anime. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like this might be kind of deep, but like a lot of art, like there's not really a precedent for representation of darker or colored or people that have textured or different hair in media since, or in art since even like the Renaissance era. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. That's a good point. And yeah, with art and like even like you mentioned like Japanese, like Asian culture and anime. And this kind of segues into VTubing just a little bit. Something that
Mm-hmm.
I found back when I was getting my model made. There's a lot of artists out there that assume when you ask for a black model that you mean tan. There's been times, and I'm very
Oh.
firm. Yeah, I know it's weird. I've been very firm about this. I've had artists commission art for me, and they'll send me back the color, and I'm just like, no, that's not my skin color. Like, this is my skin color. Make it darker,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
it's
Wow.
yeah, and I don't think it's like a purpose. I don't think they're doing it on purpose, like to be purposefully colorist. But it's a form of colorism, where they're
Mm-hmm.
thinking that a lighter color is going to be prettier, and that's just not true. I think my model's beautiful being a dark skin model. So
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting thing to bring up, that standard of beauty in Japanese culture and like in Asian culture is that lighter is better. It's very, colorism is very much an issue in Asian culture. So yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Like I would say this is deep rooted. Like this is just my opinion. I'm not like, as far as geography, history, things like that. Like my knowledge is very limited, but like from what from what I've explored of those things, like I look at the I think about how, for example, like art, like I mentioned Renaissance era paintings, like there's really no reason for there to be that many black people in those, but when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to for example, a lot of Renaissance era art was depictions of religious things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think about how, like, whether you believe like the events of, like, for example, like Christianity, like
Mm-hmm.
the events in the Bible really happened. Like the Bible is a form of a history book. And
Yep.
then the like you see a lot of depictions of biblical figures, and if you look at how the geography lines up, where a lot of the locations like in the Bible, for example, because like the reason I bring up the Bible is because I'm talking about religious texts or
Hmm.
like religious art. There's no reason for everyone to be so fair skinned.
Yeah.
Literally everyone, like 90%, like they portray Jesus as a white man, and
Laughable.
then
Laughable. Ain't no way he's living in the sun in the Middle East and he's gonna be white. Not gonna
he's
happen.
not he's not gonna survive there.
No.
Oh, they
Mm.
didn't have SPF 40 back then.
No, they did not.
No, I think my man's would have burnt. So like
Hmm.
this goes way far back. Like and then Western art and everything, Western influence on art.
Hmm.
Like I think that like that whitewashing, I'll call it, that's what I like to call it
Yeah.
because he wasn't white. I think that spread over into like other countries as well. So I think that's why we see a lot of it in like the Asian area as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, folks in the chat bring up a good point. Corvus mentioned that even though he's a white man, he played half Alex in Half-Life Alex, and it was an amazing experience. That's actually a really good point. Like, it's so interesting that people like are so up in arms about representation. And, like, anytime a new character, that new game drops, and the main character is like a black woman or a black man or a Hispanic woman or a Hispanic man, like they get so up in arms about it. Like even LGBTQ, if they're like an LGBTQ plus character, they're just like, why do they have to make everything gay? And it's like, why does that bother you? You're not even gonna see the character. It's first person. Like, why does that
Oh, good
bother you so
point.
much?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And at that point, it's like the shoe is on the other foot too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I've been having to play a character that I can't relate to for my whole life. You know what I mean? Like as far as like protagonists go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Okay.
and like Bentor said, like even in the text, like they mentioned something like he had hair like that was like wool or like a lamb and something, right? And then they're like, let's give him straight hair.
Yeah, they're all in like a fucking Con Air commercial, like looking like their hair, flipping their hair. Like Jesus had no, Jesus, his hair was not like freaking straight like that. Come on now. Okay. All right, so let's move into VTubing then. So some of the issues that I've seen, and I classify this into two different things, right? So the first thing is representation in the small indie community, the large indie community, and the corpo levels. So in the small indie community, we're everywhere. There's not, and it's so
Oh
funny
yeah.
when I first started VTubing, I could not find us. I thought I was the only black VTuber on Twitter. I could not find us, and quite frankly, I didn't find us until Black History Month, until we started getting celebrated by people. You
Hmm,
know,
hmm.
how crazy is that? Like, we were all here the whole time, and nobody knew about us because nobody was talking about us. That's so crazy to me.
Do you do that thing where it's like cuz like it's still like there are still some that like you find every now and then, like when you find another black VTuber, aren't you like, oh my god, it's another one, and then like
Yeah.
you immediately like check them out or like message them or something.
Yes. I followed so many black VTubers in February. Oh my gosh. Like all of like half my followers are black VTubers. Like for real, for real. Like, but yeah, and then representation at the larger indie level. That my line of thinking for that is how difficult it is for us to grow. I think of all of the black VTubers I have found, the biggest one maybe has like around 13,000 followers. And I find that crazy. And we can't even like say that it's because we're black, because there's black content creators out there. I think her name is what's her name? Something Guns, Janie Guns or something like that. But she's got like
Oh,
600, I forget her name. I forget. Jazzy Guns, that's her name. And she has like 600,000 subs on YouTube. So, I mean, it's not like we can't be successful. It's just so shocking to me that we're not. And I feel like the reason for that is
hmm.
larger indies don't put us on. Like I'm pretty convinced that the way to get successful, like people can bootstrap and grassroots all they want when it comes to like being like growing from zero. But I think at the end of the day, the way to be successful as a streamer is to put each other on. You know, is to have somebody bigger than you expose you to their community, and that's how people grow. And because that's not happening in the VTuber community, all these big VTubers are not collabing with like smaller, more diverse VTubers. That's why everybody's white.
Oh.
That's why everybody's white up there. Or if they're not actually white, if the real person is not white, their character's white. You know. So that's what I'm seeing. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I never thought about that. Like I've always thought about how when it came to content creation, like of course you need to have quality content, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many elements of, I don't want to say randomness to it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd say like you mentioned connections and randomness.
Yeah.
Like
Luck.
because like the randomness that I mentioned is like for example, like if one big streamer decided to like raid into a much smaller streamer who was
Mm-hmm.
also black, that could make a huge ripple in like the VTubing community in general. If like that happened more often, I'm not saying like, oh hey, go rate someone that's black,
Yeah.
automatically rate someone that's black, but like you said, like black VTubers being lifted, and also just like opportunities where how do I put it?
Mm.
Like just the strangest stuff goes viral. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I, I feel like it's those three things: quality content, also support from others, but also the underlying element of randomness that everyone's fighting against.
Yeah, you're right. The luck aspect is really real. I had one like I post clips of me singing on my Twitter literally all the time. And then one time I just post a random clip. It wasn't even the best singing I've ever done. It blows up to 200 likes. I got like 50 followers from that shit. I'm like, how? Like, it's luck. The algorithm just liked me that day. So you're right. Luck is a part. Luck is definitely a part of it.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's really surprising when it happens. It's like, wait, out of all the things, this blew up.
Mm,
This?
absolutely. And Twitter's weird like that because you even see like I know y'all probably seen this in your timelines. You'll see like a post that has like 300,000 likes on it, and then when you click the person that put the post, they got like 50 followers. Like I don't know how does this work? I don't know.
You, you know when that happens, one thing you always see is like you see a reply under the original post, and they're like, "Oh man, this is doing numbers. Hey, by the way, check out my SoundCloud."
And it never works. They never check out the SoundCloud.
Have you ever looked at the reply, and there's like, "Ooh, this blew up, like this funny dog video," and you're like, "Oh, this dog video is funny. Let me check out their SoundCloud. Let me check out
Their
their
mixtape.
Instagram."
100%. So I wish there was a way to leverage that, and that's like a flaw within like mostly Twitter. I really do not see this in like Twitch or anything, unless somebody big raids somebody small. But in Twitter, it's real weird like that, and there's not really a way
Uh-huh.
to game the system with Twitter. Um, but yeah, so yes, the large indies, yeah, that's definitely there's a representation problem with them. I think the easiest one to fix out of the three is the corpo one. So not only do we not see
Hmm.
representation in large indies, but the big corpo groups, Hololive, Niji Sanji, Vishojo, Tsunderia, all of these huge, I wouldn't call Tsunderia a huge one, but I mean, you feel me? Like all of these corpos will not hire
Hmm.
anybody black. And I know for a fact that black people are applying. They just want, and I know for a fact that quality people, black VTubers with quality content are applying. They won't choose them. And I don't know why. I don't know. I can speculate why all I want, but I mean, it needs to, quite frankly, if that happens, if they've hired somebody black, that's going to be the heyday of black VTubers. Because now suddenly the masses realize, oh shit, black people are funny. They're going to go follow all the black VTubers. But like that, because that hasn't happened yet,
Hmm. Hmm.
we're all 13K followers and lower. We're not even in the large indie category. At least that's my take. What do you think?
Oh, I never thought about that. I never really, like, to be honest, I never really considered that as a possibility because, like you said, black VTubers are are applying.
Mm-hmm.
Like and then like what I what I automatically go back to is like in my mind is the other issues that we mentioned in other forms of media, like for example, like we mentioned representation in games, but also like in anime, in
Mm-hmm.
or just like media in general. And then like there's a reason for that. Like I think the biggest reason is that is the beauty standard of that's the standard for attractiveness or appealingness in like worldwide,
Mm-hmm.
like brighter people. And like I'm not saying I love white people. I love brighter complexion people. They are there are a lot of them that are chef's kiss. Oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
yum. But but
Scrumptious.
delicious. But like I'm not saying that because like I disagree that they're beautiful, but like that's what sells. Like people are much slower to recognize the beauty of like that there is in different types of hair, different types of facial features. Not even just with black people, but like I said, like it's a colorist thing too.
Mm-hmm.
So like in my mind, the reason that doesn't happen first and foremost is because they know that's not going to sell.
Yeah. That's also my take as well, especially because like those companies that I mentioned, most of them are Japanese countries. So if they're that community, the Japanese community does have colorist issues. Not to say I'm not saying that that's what's happening there. I'm just saying like that's I believe that that could be a factor. But I
Hmm.
also believe that they're pretty progressive, especially the Ian. I feel like a lot of I'm pretty sure their Ian folks are run by some Western people. They have to be because they are being like, for example, like Yugo in the new Niji Sanji. I think Yugo was in Noxium. Is that or Noctix? There we go. Not Luxium.
Uh-huh.
Noctix. Noctix. And Yugo is voiced by, I believe, a femme person. I
Oh,
don't.
really?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that the voice actor of Yugo is actually trans. I think it's actually a femme person. So it's interesting that they went. That's pretty ambitious. I think. Um, I think there's plenty of indie VTubers that do that are genderqueer and non-binary. But the fact that they hired a femme person to voice a male character is pretty fucking progressive.
Oh.
So I feel like they're capable of it. I think they're capable of making those bold choices. And I think Niji Sanji specifically is the most capable. Like they seem like the most open to experiment. And I honestly we need to see more of it. I mean I get it. What works. And it does. Like if they hire 10 more Bar Goudas, they're gonna make hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're gonna do that. But I mean, at the same
Uh-huh.
time, experimenting opens up to other demographics. Quite frankly, because there is no like real like black black presenting big VTuber right now. There's an
Hmm.
entire demographic, an entire audience that is not keyed into the VTuber community because of it, because they don't see somebody that looks like them. And I know there's like it's a weird misconception. This is a guy, y'all, black folks in the audience. This is a weird misconception that a lot of non-black people seem to think that black folks don't like anime. That could not be more false.
Black people love some Dragon Ball Z.
That could not be more. We are the biggest weebs ever. Like, and that's a whole market that's being excluded right now because of it. So I like that'd be my call to action for like corpos out there. That's a market that y'all could tap into. The first corpo to hire a black presenting person as a VTuber and get a black model, you're gonna make a lot of fucking money from that shit. I just gotta say.
Oh yeah. Oh
mm,
my gosh.
mm,
Like
yeah.
I would go as far as to say that like you know how like black meme culture.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that a lot of anime is part of that too.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
we love some and like I'm not projecting onto Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, but like the head canon of like 90% of black people is that like Piccolo is black.
Yep, 100%, 100%. Ask any black person who likes anime. Ask him if Piccolo's black. They're gonna say, oh, they are. Yes, the Namekians are all black. Yes.
Exactly. That and Knuckles the echidna.
Yep. But yeah. So I think there's definitely the representation issues I think are solved, and a lot of it needs to happen from allies. Our allies have got to help lift us up. Like, we can grow and pull each other up, but I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, there's the biggest of us are still considered small, and that's really messed up because there are a lot of talented content creators out there that really deserve that light shown on them. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sweet deal. So, but the last topic is Hollywood, black representation in Hollywood. So this is something that's pretty close to my heart because I'm an actor. I do theater acting, and
Okay.
the IRL and the issues that I have observed in Hollywood are, number one, being branded as the angry black person. That's something that any black person can identify with, because that shit just happens in any. It doesn't, not even just Hollywood. The difference with Hollywood is that it can fuck up your career if they brand you as that, because the whole thing about like acting and theater in Hollywood is like everybody knows everybody. And it's nepotism is so fucking bad. It's so fucking bad when it comes to the highest tier of acting and theater and show business, such that if you get into a show and you piss off the wrong person, they'll tell everybody to not hire you, and they won't hire you. And that actually happened. We were talking about Fresh Prince earlier. Dark Skin and Viv.
Oh yeah,
This
on
happened to
Viv.
her. This happened to her where she had a falling out with Will on the set. Will told them, "I'm not working with her anymore." They're not going to fire Will. He's the fucking face of the show. So
He's
they
the
fired
Fresh
her.
Prince.
Exactly. It's not fresh auntie of Bel-Air. So they fired her and they replaced her, and now she's branded as difficult to work with. There's other people this happened to. This happened to Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard is branded as a difficult person to work with. He got fired. Didn't get fired, but his contract got terminated with Iron Man 2. So y'all remember Terrence Howard was playing Rhodey. He was the original actor who played Rhodey before
Before Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle. And when they were in talks because Iron Man was wildly successful, as y'all know, it spawned off the MCU. So when they were in talks for Iron Man 2, the contracts were a lot higher. In the first Iron Man, Terrence Howard got paid more than Robert Downey Jr. because Terrence Howard was a bigger actor.
Oh.
And in the second one, Robert Downey Jr., they were like, oh, we're going to give him all the money this time. And Terrence Howard, all he asked for, he actually got a pay cut. He got a pay cut in the second one when they offered him money. Because the previous movie made so much money, he's just like, I want you guys to give me more money. I think I deserve that. And instead of fucking giving it to him or even negotiating, they fucking fired him and replaced him. And branded him as a difficult to work with actor. And that is why we don't see Terrence Howard on a lot of stuff. He did Empire for like 8 years after that, but that's it.
Wow.
That's it.
I didn't know that. This is news to me.
Yeah, so it really does happen. Another example of this, I could go on forever with this. A recent example about this, Ray Fisher in Justice League. So the story with Justice League is that Ray Fisher played Cyborg, and it was originally directed by Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder had a tragedy in his family. His daughter killed herself. So he had to step away from the project. They brought in Joss Whedon instead to like finish the project up. Joss Whedon's ass. Oh, I got a lot to say about Joss Whedon, y'all. Oh my God. He totally hated Zack Snyder's script and rewrote a lot of it. That's the reason why the story we got in 2017 versus the Zack Snyder cut last year is like fucking totally different, because Joss Whedon pretty much changed the whole fucking thing. If you notice, in Zack Snyder's version, Cyborg is the main character. Cyborg is the main protagonist of that movie. It's following Cyborg the whole time. In Joss Whedon's version, he all but cut Cyborg out of the fucking movie. And we find out...
That's a big change.
It really is bad. And we found out because Ray Fisher actually whistle blew about this after the original came out in 2017, and again last year when the Zack Snyder cut came out. Because when the Zack Snyder cut came out, we all saw it. We were just like, okay, hold the fuck up. You cut Ray Fisher totally out of this movie, because he had a big role in this movie. So and basically on the set, like Joss Whedon was like riddling with him with like like microaggressions, talking about he's not a very good actor, talking about he needs to do this X, Y, and Z. And he was just he was a total asshole to Ray Fisher, and he was like verbally abusive, and Ray Fisher just had to kind of take it. And quite frankly, back
Wow.
when he finally did whistleblow, everybody like jumped on him. Like, what? Joss Whedon is a respected director. You know what you're talking about. You're just difficult to work with. You're just an angry person. You're just ungrateful. And they all like canceled Ray Fisher until a couple years later we found out Ray Fisher was telling the truth. So anyway, that's
And then
sorry, long
at that
winded, but
point, it's
that's
too
it.
late. Oh no, you're
Exactly.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
So
you might find out later, but like after the damage has been done and the opportunities have been missed, there's not much you can do.
yeah. And when somebody has power in Hollywood, um, they can end your career. And it sucks because black people have long been like it's called implicit bias. Like people, whenever like a stereotype is deeply rooted in society for long enough, people can't help but to think it, and people can't help but to assume that black folks are going to be aggressive in confrontations. It's something that I've personally experienced. There's been times where there was one time when I went to the airport, and I had I had like my purse, which is supposed to be my personal item, and two bags, and I didn't realize that counted as three bags. And I get up to the ticket counter, and this lady's just like, you have three bags, you need to consolidate. I was just like, oh, okay, I can do that. And then they started like snapping at me like, ma'am, you calm down, ma'am, you need to, I'm like, what?
Huh?
I'm not for, yeah, I know, right? They were like coming at me like because the reason why is because they assumed before I even opened my mouth, they assumed that I was going to fight them on it. They assumed that I was going to be aggressive. And I'm sitting here like, no, I
Start
can do
snapping
it.
your
It's
fingers.
fine. Yeah, exactly. So it's crazy. That's not even the first time that's happened to me. And it's called implicit. It's not calling people are not overtly racist when they do that, but it is a racist thing. It is inherently racist to do that. It's exactly implicit bias. So and it affects people in Hollywood. Like people, as soon as a black person like maybe complains and says, "Hey, this hairstylist doesn't know how to do my hair," now they think that person's difficult. You know,
Yeah,
now they treat them
that's
with less respect. Yeah.
like you said, it's not even outright. It's not even intentional, but like people don't realize that like bias or specifically racism isn't always intentional. Like I'm sure that there are many things that I do,
Mm.
or a few things here and there, or even ideas in my head that are just like innately rooted in some sort of bias or racism.
Mm-hmm.
And like for example, like you brought up that example from the airport at my old work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a previous job, there was a policy, there was a dress code for people that we were working with.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was my boss, and then there was the second in command who was under him. And
Mm-hmm.
the second in command, he had this policy where it's like, well, the dress code is there for a reason. If you do not, if you're not dressed properly, then you are sent home.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, that's it. And then there were like I can count on like maybe three people, three clients where it came in. They were not in the proper attire,
Mm-hmm.
and then the I was thinking, oh man, they're just gonna have to go home.
Yeah.
Long day. And then my boss, he goes to the back and he gets the uniform and everything that they need, and he provides it for them. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, okay, well, okay, whatever. And then same thing happened with a darker color client. And I'm like, oh, okay, so boss man is just gonna go back and hook him up.
Yeah.
He's just gonna dap him up. And no, he's like,
Mm.
he was sent home.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that, like he it wasn't intentional either. It was just like, yeah, it was implicit bias. It was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And
So
he
like
probably
that
didn't
runs deep.
even. he probably didn't even see anything wrong with it. He probably wasn't even thinking like, oh yeah, I'm doing my job. But he didn't realize he was being more lenient to the person that looked closer like him
Exactly.
unconsciously. Yeah, it happens. And I want to stress. I can't stress enough. Like when we talk about implicit bias, like, and I know like people that white people like really hate the R word. They fucking hate being called racist. It does not. Let me. This is my mission to every white person in the world. When someone points out something that you did was racist, they are not calling you a racist. They're just saying you, a person, a human that makes mistakes, did a racist thing, so that you can know that you did a racist thing and learn from it and not do it again. So I know I'm pretty sure folks in the chat right now, you probably don't even need to hear that because I trust that y'all already know that. But believe it or not, some people don't. So that's my message to every other white person in the world. You're not inherently racist when someone says you did a racist thing. That's not what people are doing.
No, like, and again, it goes both ways too. Like, of course, like we're talking about like the like bias or racism that affects us,
Mm-hmm.
but like we have biases of our own too. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a it's not a white thing, not a black thing, not an Asian thing, not a color thing. It's just a human thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I acknowledge that I probably have a decent amount of racism within me, unintentional, and it will be checked at some point.
Mm-hmm. But you're willing to check it. That's the point. Like
Hmm.
folks have to be willing to acknowledge something bad that they're done when someone says so instead of because the knee-jerk reaction is the bad habit that everybody's really got to kick. Like if somebody tells you did something wrong, before saying no I didn't, just say okay, did I do something wrong? Like why is that if
Hmm.
somebody gives a reaction to you that is like a really strong negative reaction, instead of like reacting back to them, be like okay, so why what about what I just said or did gave them that reaction. Like empathize with that person and try to see what they're how they might be interpreting what you said or did and learn from it. It's
Hmm.
growth. It's growth. Like the meme
Like,
from Insecure.
like, one thing I want to piggyback off of that is like how you said like checking yourself, right? Because I like before I presented this topic to you of like representation in media and games and everything,
Mm-hmm.
like I ran it by a few of my friends, and then they were like, "Oh, really? I didn't even know that was a problem. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know that that was something that happened, that was happening." And like when you think about it, it's not even like just like because I chose the topic of BIPOC people being represented in media and games because like it's affected me personally. But this goes for there are like there are like Caucasian people that have like curly, wavy
Mm-hmm.
hairstyles, or like they have certain like facial features that are shaped a certain way, like nose or lip shape, or like they
Mm-hmm.
have features where it's like they have like maybe freckles or a beauty mark, and then they feel excluded because they can't represent that in the in like for example a character creator, or
Mm-hmm.
they feel like those aren't aren't beautiful as well because they don't see it. They don't see someone that looks like them exactly either.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's important. It's that's why I really have a lot of respect for I'm a person when I play these games, like whenever I see little details like that where that show that the game developer really thought about somebody, like in Cyberpunk 2077, as many issues as that game had, that had one of the most customizable character experiences I've ever seen. Like to the point where you could like change the shape of your nose or change the shape of your jaw, make yourself thin, make yourself a little bit chubby, give yourself
Ooh.
big boobs, small boobs, give yourself a big wiener or a small wiener. Like
Wait, wait,
it's
Wiener? Wait, what?
yes,
I've never seen that.
there is dick customization in Cyberpunk and boob customization in Cyberpunk 2077. It was incredible. And and I know some people might think, oh man, that's stupid. Just let us get the hop in the character and go in. But like for a lot of people, just like you mentioned, doesn't matter what color you are or what you're like. There's a lot of people in the world that look at these games and they never see themselves in it. And to the folks at Project, was it Code Project Red? Some whatever their name is, people that made Cyberpunk 2077, they made that engine for customization so customizable because they thought about those people, and I just appreciate that little detail that they thought of, and it's what makes them a really good company, I think. So,
Wow, I didn't know about that. I have a
hmm
question about that. Like you mentioned, you could customize the Frank. Can you customize the beans as well?
no, no, sadly, ball size is static, but
We got
That,
ways to go.
yeah, look how Wisdom, but it was a really cool stride, and I feel like a lot of game. And I get it, like a game development's hard, and like spending a lot of resources in something like that is very expensive. But it really does show that they care and that they're thinking about their players, ever not just their core players, not just their core audience, not just the demographic that they're gonna most play, but they're thinking about everybody, and I think that's pretty freaking cool. So,
Oh yeah, that's the kind of stuff I love to hear. And then like in chat, we have someone mentioning like they said in the recent Miles Morales Spider-Man game, um, there's a deaf character that uses ASL, and it's proper ASL. And then like a deaf person commented on that scene, and they said that's the first time that they had ever seen proper ASL in a game. And it's like it's just representation all around.
yeah, they really like most people. Sure, people could argue that most people that moment probably pass them by. They probably wouldn't even think twice about it. But then you have people that are deaf. That's gonna really that moment is gonna stick with them in their head. You know
That that
that they did that for that person. You know.
I could see myself crying
Yeah.
if that was me.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right.
The
Oh, what's up?
Yeah, like like one more thing I want to shout out. Like you shout out at the creators to for Cyberpunk, but one thing I was really shocked by is I believe it was Monster Hunter World.
Mm.
In three games: Monster Hunter World, Animal Crossing,
Mm-hmm.
and Fantasy Life for the Nintendo 3DS. These aren't even American developers, but they added Afro hairstyles and textured
Yes.
hair to the game. Like that was wild to me.
Yes. That's rad. No, yeah, I agree with that. And they like did it well. Cause don't get me wrong, there were other games that like would try that. I don't know if y'all ever played GTA 5, but there's like a cornrows that you can put on Franklin. And they straight up just look like yarn braids super glued to his scalp. They don't like I applaud them for trying, but that ain't it. Like so so those games you mentioned actually did it well, and I really like that.
Points to them for trying though. That like yeah. The
Absolutely.
if you have like a few more minutes, there's actually
Yeah,
one more
absolutely.
point that I want to bring up because like I think that that sort of ties into the solution to this problem of like not just us but a lot of people feeling excluded. The chat.
I saw it too.
Oh my gosh. The I think that ties into sort of the solution because like you said, like for example in the VTuber community, we
Mhm.
have we have the ones like those of us that are colored and popular, it's on a much smaller scale than everyone else, right?
Yeah.
But I also see this as a really big opportunity because like you said, like those three games or those four games we mentioned, they did it well.
Yeah.
The Grand Theft Auto, not so much. But what I like is how they tried because again, one thing to keep in mind is there's not much of a precedent for like these features being illustrated even in a 2D medium or in a 3D medium. So
Mhm.
I would say like that's the first step. People trying, like people
Mhm.
trying to, for example, like creating VTuber assets that are including darker skin tones, or people just trying to like draw different types of characters
Mm.
that they've never done before. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes. I see it too, and people are trying. There's like something saw on Twitter. Somebody made, and you're right. It's the assets making assets because a lot of people, I guess, are I'm not gonna call them it's not laziness. It's just people. It's hard, and people like to stick with what's comfortable. And what I've
Hmm.
seen people post on Twitter is like assets other people can use in order to make content that's more inclusive. And it was really great. Somebody made paintbrushes that
Cool.
you can import into Photoshop that makes textured hair, like curls, spirals, kinky hair, braids,
Oh, I've seen
Senegalese
those. I love
twists.
those.
And that's so great that they did that because it's just like that just made it that much easier for artists to be able to make those. Like maybe they wanted to. Even my artist couldn't. I asked her to give my model like kinkier curls, like tighter spirals, and she literally couldn't do it because it's like too hard is the wrong word. It's difficult to make that in live 2D. And then that person that made that paintbrush just made it that much easier, you know?
Hmm.
So I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's really cool. That's really cool for people. Like I really applaud people like that, or that are like actively not just changing the climate themselves on making their own art, but also enabling other artists to adopt it as well.
Oh, for sure. Like, I would say that's going to be the biggest driving force in the issues that we mentioned changing because like I'm black and I've encountered this problem myself, like rendering my model that's not chibi and everything with textured hair. I don't have anything okay. What
Mm.
I did was to reference hair, I searched Pokemon. I really like Pokemon's art style, and
Mm-hmm.
I searched like sheep Pokemon because they're
Oh.
very woolly. I searched. I looked up how people render characters that wear fur coats. I was like, ooh, let me see what that fur does, so I can maybe apply that to hair or something. But I think there's already a precedent for like a lot of what we see in anime or VTubing. It's been done before, but I
Yeah.
think the more people try, the more people just attempt. Even if it's not perfect, it'll get better. It'll get better.
Mm-hmm.
It'll get better, and then I honestly think this could have an effect that goes outside VTubing too.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this is a great talk. Oh my gosh, this is a great conversation. I like this is a great
Oh, that
topic.
was fun.
By the way, chat, like this topic came from Crow, by the way. So this is thank you, Crow, for this topic. This is a fantastic topic to talk about. Like, oh my goodness, it's huge.
I want to thank my friends as well for helping me out too because like this is my first time being on a talk show podcast type deal. So I ran a lot of my ideas by them, and then like I would say that actually none of them were black, and then like I explained it to them, and then we just like exchanged ideas as well, and like I feel like that's another way too, just like having discussions about this with everyone in general.
Hmm. Absolutely. When
Thanks,
we talk
Nick.
about it, like that's definitely like that's definitely the goal of my other show for me. Like talking about these topics. And I'd like it's hard topics. This is a very hard topic, and it's a topic that, like you mentioned, a lot of people just have no insight in. Like they have no idea that it's even a problem. So that's my goal with the show is to just like talk about it, get other people to talk about it with me, people that agree with me, people that don't agree with me, like and let's have a conversation and educate people and yeah.
Oh, for sure, and you do a very good job.
Yay. Hex yeah. Well, I think we're coming up to the end of the show. I don't see any questions from our audience. So yeah, thank you so much, Crow, for coming on with us. This is a great show. It's our very first episode. Some ending remarks. The show is a podcast, and it's going to go up on all major platforms in 2 weeks. So if you'd like to hear it again, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, it's also just going to be a VOD, so you can just watch it again. Next time I'm live is going to be Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm playing Ghostwire Tokyo. When's the next time you're live, Crow?
Oh, I'm live tomorrow, but I don't know where I'm gonna be live. You can find out. Oh, oops, I'm advertising. Oops, you can find oops out on my Twitter. Oops.
For sure. Advertise away. Yes, yes. Um,
Uh,
for
yeah.
sure. Sweet deal. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Crow, for coming online with us. And you know what? Y'all were great too. And thank you for tuning in. And I hope y'all have a lovely evening. All righty. Have a good night, y'all.
Yeah, thank
Bye.
you so much. Good job, Chad. You guys were awesome too.